I was going to talk about my worst Christmas. I hesitated to talk about this because, it's sort of airing your laundry. But this year, it's been sharing and stuff. It was 30 years ago. 1981. My parents have been having trouble in their marriage for a while, and my dad had moved in and out of the house several times. I think he had moved back in at this point. And it was right at our Christmas break. Our trip that year was, we were going to drive to Ruidoso. My parents had one of those timeshare condos, and we were going to go for a week over Christmas and ski. My dad sits us all down in the house and tells us that he had met someone and that he was in love with her, and they, my parents were getting a divorce. Right the day before we were leaving on this family trip. There's 4 kids. There's 4 of us in the family. And they're all crying. And I am not. I am sitting there with no reaction. I guess because I had seen him move in and out several times. My brother and sister were off at college. And so they weren't there. And then my younger sister, well, she was there, but I don't know. She was the youngest. And so I'm just like, whatever. Blah, blah, blah. Fine. Whatever makes you happy. I really had no reaction. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, everybody's crying but me. I must be dead inside. I don't know. I just was like, at that point, I really even then thought, if that will make my parents happy, then by all means, don't be together, because they were really toxic together, I thought. So I was thinking, this is not a bad thing. And so my dad says, okay, I've got to finish up some work before I can meet you guys in Ruidoso for Christmas. And I'm going to fly out there Christmas Eve, I think. The next day, we're going to caravan, and it's a 14-hour drive. So we get up at the butt crack of the day and go. I wanted to ride with my brother more than with my mom and my sister because, we could crank the music and it would be more fun, I thought. And my mom really had this thing about having the radio, so low that you couldn't even really tell what song was playing. And I don't know. And it was very tense because my dad wasn't coming with us. And so my mom she was in a mood, and rightly so. And the whole vibe of the trip was off. So I'm riding with my brother and my sister. So 3 of us are in the car, and my sister brings some music to listen to. 3 8-tracks. ZZ Top's El Loco, Kenny Rogers Christmas, Ronnie Milsap, There Ain't No Getting Over You. And we listened to those 3 over and over and over again for 14 hours. If I never hear any of those songs again, I will be fine. Because seriously, by the time we got there, I had a lot of hostility toward all of those individuals. I couldn't stand the music. It was terrible, and I couldn't talk my sister out of not playing them over and over again. And I don't know why my brother put up with it, because it was his car. I guess he was in his own world with all this, what was going on. But we did. We listened to it over and over again. And then on the off times that we switched cars, and my sister and I switched to ride with my mom, she brought the 8-tracks with her. It was hell. And we get there, get settled in, we get a Christmas tree, and it was kind of fun because we had to make our ornaments, and so that actually was a lot of fun. We had construction paper and popcorn, and we tried to make the best of the situation. So that was a good memory associated with it. And when we got there, we had dinner. I remember that. And then the next day we went skiing. And the condo was in town, so it was like a 30-minute drive up to the mountain to go skiing. And we get there and we're skiing. My mom's she doesn't ski, but she's kind of out somewhere where you can check in with her and stuff. And I start feeling really bad. I'm getting sick of something. So I'm really got this intestinal thing happening, and I couldn't ski anymore. So I had to I just went down to the bottom of the mountain, and I just laid down in the snow. I mean, I just was suddenly so sick, and people would stop by, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm really fine." Meanwhile, I'm dying of something, I feel like. And we can't go home because we can't go down to the mountain because, you know, it's just the middle of the afternoon and everybody's skiing and having fun. So I'm quietly dying on the bottom of the mountain. And we finally get home, and whatever I had the diarrhea, which you do not want to not be able to take care of, which I couldn't do on the mountain. So that was terrible. And then I had the diarrhea for like 4 days. So I'm, you know, in the condo is one thing where I can go to the bathroom as often as I need to. But then the next day we went skiing again. And I had to go with them because, you know, I'm a kid and my mom's not going to leave me in this condo by myself. And it's a 30-minute drive to the ski place. And it's not like it was a ski in and out where I could stay in and do that. So I had to go up to the mountain and be sick up there. It was just excruciating. And then Christmas Eve comes and goes. Christmas morning we wake up and open our gifts, and I guess we just sort of stay around Christmas Day in the condo, and then Christmas night comes and there's no word from my dad. And, you know, the four of us are trying to comfort my mother and say, you know, maybe, and this was way before cell phones, right? So, you know, if he was en route, we wouldn't know. And he didn't call. He never called. So even Christmas night, my sister's like, "It's still Christmas. He could still come." She's like, "Yeah, whatever." And we go through the rest of the trip, and my dad never called once. And of course, my mom was devastated, even though, you know, things hadn't been going well and whatever. It was still hard for everyone. And it was really, really an odd trip. I can't even really explain sort of the feelings that we were all having, I think. And we did find some comfort, I think, in that we were all sort of going through it together, and that in a way was, you know, we were closer than we probably were in a long time in terms of just being there. And we didn't talk about it. But, you know, we were trying to put up a brave front for my mom. And in retrospect, I probably got this stomach thing because of all that shit that was going on, and that was just how it manifested in me, was the shits. Because it was just, yeah, it was not good. And I am grateful that on the trip back, we did not listen to Kenny Rogers' Christmas, which was good. But we did listen to a lot of Ronnie Milsap and ZZ Top again. And I seriously cannot listen to El Loco to this day. I just remember feeling so bad for my mom having to go through all this. And then, you know, she was really trying to minimize it all for us. And we were trying to, I guess we were trying to minimize it all for her as well. And just, we never talked about it at all the entire week we were there. Except for, you know, he'll come. He'll be here any minute. And you could see it in her face when she realized he wasn't coming. Just how devastated she looked. And then we just tried to have a good time, regardless of what was going on. We tried to make the best of the situation. And then, then the ride back was quiet. I really vaguely remember sort of driving back. It was just so, let's get home. and do that. Years later, I actually found out that my dad had gone to Hong Kong for Christmas. So you don't just go to Hong Kong. I mean, it's not like you just let's go to Vegas. I would think you've got to have a little more planning involved to leave the country. That he knew when he was talking to us that he wasn't going to be joining us. While he was telling us, this is what's happening, that's fine, that's one thing. But to say, I'm going to meet you guys for Christmas and then to just not show up and not call. I really didn't have an issue with my parents getting divorced per se because, I thought they were not good together. And so I had made my peace with that. I was fine with that. It was sort of the way the aftermath was handled that I thought was pretty shitty. And you don't do that to your family, and you certainly don't do that over Christmas. There was never an apology of I'm sorry I didn't make it for Christmas. There was not even really an attempt to come up with a story as to why he wasn't there. It was just that he didn't make it. It was, I think, if he didn't talk about it, it never really happened kind of thing. That if I don't acknowledge it, then, nobody else will. It was one of those things that we just never talked about, even years later. Except for, when I found out he had gone to Hong Kong, I was pissed about it, disappointed in him handling that way. I thought that was sort of a coward's way of doing it, the way he did it. And but with that, I still, I don't know. I still wasn't angry as I was disappointed, if that makes any sense. And I just, realized that was a character flaw in him, of not being able to address some things and bury his head in the sand about things. And I think all of us kids, we inherited that trait as well. Because I know I can bury my head in the sand about things as well when they get uncomfortable for me. But that's all we knew growing up. And so, some people are in families where they're just like, let's knock it out and be done with it, and we're like, oh, I'm just going to go hide over here and we'll just pretend like it never happened. Yeah. So, that's of the lessons learned in my life of all the things good and bad that happen, that I try not to, as much as I can. It's still, it's a strong trait to try to get over, of sticking your head in the sand and pretending that something isn't happening, or waiting till you think that people won't, confront you on it. It's very difficult. But I do try to, now as I get older, confront things, take responsibility for things, and maybe move on from there and make things better. And I think in the long run, for me, that by trying to take responsibility for things, owning up to it, that it's far better and easier, really, to move on. So, I wish I had been given that bit of knowledge when I was much younger. I think my life would be, would have been less bumpy, So, but I'm trying to make the second half a smoother ride. This is a very long video. I'm going to try to see if I can edit it down to just a long video. Talk to you guys later. Bye.